All right, you've become relatively familiar with a few of the concepts around cryptocurrency, including what cryptocurrency is, the fact that there's buyers and sellers in a market, and that there's a lot of safety concerns right now because this is a new asset class. It's a new industry, trading and selling this asset class like the rest of the securities and commodities. Now that we've gone through that stuff and given you a little bit of exposure to it, it's time to talk about the practicals. The first thing we're going to talk about is exchanges. There's two different types of exchanges. Exchanges are where you are buying and selling your digital assets. You need to select the right type of exchange for your type of investing. A cash exchange is where you send money from your bank account and you buy digital assets. You won't be as sensitive to fees, trading fees, if you're a low frequency investor. The cash exchanges are very easy to use with e-transfer or funding from a bank account. The locality of the exchange matters. So these are American exchanges. I think Wealthsimple has a Canadian app as well. Cash exchanges act as an on-ramp to crypto exchange for high frequency trading. So crypto exchanges are different than cash exchanges. You don't have money in a bank account. What you have are stable coins that act like money because they're pegged to the US dollar. Stable coins make it so that you can buy low and sell high and have an asset that doesn't fluctuate in value. So it acts as a safety. Tax and protections are worth discussing about the exchanges. So if you buy and sell on a cash exchange, every time you turn cash into crypto, you're buying a capital asset. Every time you turn crypto into cash, you're selling a capital asset. That could mean that you'd be triggering capital gains and capital losses to some degree. It's something to be aware of. They will provide tax statements at the end, but if you want to have the choice about when you pay your capital gains, having access to a crypto exchange isn't a bad idea because you can use stable coins that are still considered capital assets. So while you're swapping Bitcoin in and out against the US dollar, that US dollar you're using is actually wrapped in a stable coin so that it's protected from any sort of tax treatment like that. Protections, this goes back to the locality of the exchange. So if you have a cash exchange and say something happens to that exchange and you had money in the bank account and you had crypto, your money in your bank account enjoys a much higher degree of protection under most regulators than your crypto assets. That could be problematic later on. That's why self-custody wallets become important later on. If you are on a crypto exchange, there's a good chance it's probably international. You won't enjoy the same amount of protections, most likely, if something happens to that exchange. So that's something to keep in mind. Generally speaking, there is a good sense of partnership between Canada and the US for laws and regulations. I know that for myself, I had an FTX account. That FTX account collapsed. I lost on that FTX account. I lost about, I don't know, $12. I didn't care. I'm still getting emails talking about the class action suit that I could be a part of if I wanted to. The first thing you need to be able to do is some online banking. So you need a bank account and you need an online banking app or some sort of computer website that you visit where you can send and receive e-transfers from. The next thing you need, obviously, is a phone or PC. Whatever you're using to watch this could very well be the tool that you do your trading on. For me, I use my phone primarily for all of my trading on the apps that I use. All right, this next one we've talked about is the Fiat Exchange app. I've mentioned a few of them like Crypto.com and Coinbase. I use one called Newton. It is a Canadian company. It's so making it a local app means that you have local Canadian service. For me, that adds a degree of protection or at least reduce risk in terms of using them as an exchange. If there's some sort of failure with them, we'll have better protections here in Canada. In addition to that, Newton also has a very small spread. A spread is your effective price. So if you see Bitcoin listed for $10,000, and there's $1,000 spread in either direction, when you buy Bitcoin that's listed for $10,000, you'll actually pay $11,000. And when you sell Bitcoin that's worth or listed at $10,000, you'll be selling it for $9,000. The exchanges do this because of electronic trading. There have been times when the electronic trades would happen so fast, the exchanges would be liable for buy and sell orders that had completed. Meanwhile, the supply or the demand was hitting a peak that went beyond the exchange's threshold to deal with it. So suddenly the exchange is buying and selling at a loss. So they invented this idea of the spread. It's the worst spread I ever saw was on Wealthsimple. The worst fees I ever saw were on Wealthsimple. In addition to there being no fees and a small spread, Newton also allows for a free daily on-chain network transmission. If you're buying your Bitcoin and sending it to your self-custody, using Newton means that if you're just doing that infrequently, you're never going to pay for the transmission fee to send it to a safe storage. Eventually, when you want to send something on the blockchain back and have to pay gas fees, you'll pay like a small one-time fee, but you're likely not going to be doing that with any frequency. Storing your Bitcoin on your self-custody wallet is something that you might do with frequency if you want to keep current with that and keep growing it in a place where you feel absolutely safe with it. This next one is necessary for many apps, including Newton. It's called an Authenticator. It is technology I don't understand. However, I've been using authenticators for 20 years now, and it basically is just generating a 6-digit code every 30 seconds that you are the only person who could ever have that code because you had the original seed that primed your authenticator for it. Again, I don't understand the technology. These numbers will be generated forever. And you need it as a two-factor authentication because if you decide to use your phone as a two-factor or an email as a two-factor, those are both vulnerable. Those can both be hacked a lot easier than it would ever be to hack two-factor authentication with an authenticator. So I use Google. I use the Google Authenticator for everything that I can. Already have it installed before you start to install some of these other things, because when it comes time to use those things will prompt the program to open up, and it's a lot more streamlined than if it's prompting you to use an authenticator. You don't have the authenticator. Then you're loading the authenticator, and then you're coming back to your program that was prompting you, and is the prompt still live or active or whatever. So yeah, just load Google Authenticator. You don't have to do anything with it until a program prompts you to. So those 4 things are what you absolutely need to buy and sell crypto. The next 2 things are what you need to buy and sell crypto intelligently. The next piece of software is probably one of the most critical pieces of software for planning or intelligence, and that is TradingView. It's available for free. It is very powerful in its free form, and you will be using it to record when you purchase things at a certain level. Then you can see where the price is relative to those purchases. You can also show where you pulled profits out. And then when price moves down below that, you'll know that you're buying it as a discount from what you sold it before. There's a lot of different ways to use it. I'm going to have to devote an entire video to just the basic tools and the basic purposes that somebody can use it for. The next highly important piece of software that you're going to need is a spreadsheet. So if you're using Excel, great. If you don't have access to a commercial spreadsheet, Google provides one called Sheets that's very powerful, and you'll be able to use it. So that's the roundup of our essential tools. I will foreshadow that there's a couple other tools I consider essential. that I would encourage you to consider at some point if it's right for you. The first one is crypto exchanges. They are they require a little greater degree of technical expertise to operate on, but I will be happy to provide my recommendations and guidance for operating on those exchanges. I use those exchanges for futures contracts. So that's leveraged trading, which allows you to trade at your position size without placing all of your equity on the exchange. Some people use leverage incorrectly, so I don't want to guide a bunch of people to installing that right now. Using leverage can get somebody wrecked faster than anything. The second one is X.com, formerly known as Twitter. There are some very important personalities and intellectuals in this space who provide free information just for the sake of benefiting others around them. And when you can find those producers and contributors of that level of expertise and benefit from it, you will reduce your own workload a lot.